everyone. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Asbel.
We want to welcome you to another episode on A Cup of Real. And this is our first episode going into 2024 for January. And we are going to be talking today about decluttering your life.
Oh, that's a big word. Decluttering.
And we're going to try to condense this because we can go on and on about this. There are so many things that we can do to declutter our life. But the definition for decluttering is to remove unnecessary items from an untidy or overcrowded place, to remove things you do not need from a place in order to make it more pleasant and more useful. Now I could add to that. To me, that's just plain, but we'll go on. So have you collected things in your life, not just physically, but mentally, that have taken up residence inside your mind? A lot of times we can change a place, our address, location, place of employment, becoming a new member at a church, ending an old relationship, moving into a new relationship, but carrying those things called clutter into that new phase. And so I have a question for us all that I thought we all can ask ourselves. What do you need to unpack right now? What do you not want to be a part of what's next? And when I'm talking about next, I'm talking about what do you not want to carry going into 2024?
And I think it's just important that a lot of people take the new year and get rid of stuff, give stuff to the Goodwill or some other charity, especially at the end of the year, and then it kind of moves into spring cleaning, yes. Where you're kind of decluttering your physical spaces. Yeah. Yeah. Which is important, but oftentimes what we see in the natural, if you have a lot of clutter in your life, or it could be the exact opposite spectrum, you're very, very OCD, or everything has to be in its place, is really indicative of something possibly internally going inside as well.
Or a hoarder. The total opposite, being a hoarder.
Well, that's where clutter comes in, where it's hoarding, where you're really, really hoarding, and
both
so it's a symptom. Yeah,
unhealthy.
Very unhealthy. So where do you move into that middle ground? And that's kind of what we're talking about. What are you, when you're physically decluttering, you also should probably be emotionally decluttering as well.
Yeah, and I have a good quote here. I have a few quotes I'm going to be quoting here. Gail Blanket says, "When we throw out the physical clutter, we clear our minds. When we throw out the mental clutter, we clear our souls." And I really love that. Ecclesiastes 3:6 says that there is a time to keep and a time to cast away. So there's a time to throw away things, not always keep and hold dear to. But sometimes you got it. And I'm preaching to myself here because
she is right now. I'm telling you, I'm sitting here listening to her and I'm thinking, ooh, shit.
I definitely can be. I wouldn't call myself a pack rat, but I can hold on to things.
And that's the example that we're gonna give too. That sometimes she'll be, I'm gonna wear this outfit, and she's had it in her closet for 14 years, and she's got a good intention to try to get back into it. And I'm like, if you've not worn that in a year, maximum 2 years, it's time to get rid of the stuff.
Okay, let's pause right here. There have been things, he said, is that new? And I'm like, no, this is 6 years old. I have literally worn things from 6-7 years ago. But he is right, I do have some things, I just can't let go of them. I love them. It's a beautiful dress, whatever it is. And I'm just like thinking I may wear that again. Now that's what I can hold on to.
Yeah, and sometimes there's some things that are sentimental value. So there's things that you keep around because it has sentimental value. Right. There's things that I've kept that has sentimental value. But I've tried to get into a position, even myself, is that if I've not worn it in a while, and I was just telling her that this morning, saying I've got to get up there, I got to get through my closets, give stuff away again. I mean, we went through this about a year ago when we were moving. We just got rid of a ton of stuff, and
it felt so good because you come into our new place and everything's clean and fresh and organized. And I'm a little bit unorganized right now.
Well, I actually had to repent too because I had so much stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we had so much stuff that I was thinking, some of the stuff I haven't worn but a few times, and we were giving it away, and I felt convicted saying, this is excess. And so I literally have not had a new suit made in a year because I got so convicted just because I had...
But not with your shoes. This guy has more shoes than me. Literally.
I do. You know what? The problem is I go into my, and I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. So I've tried to stop, but sometimes it's
It
just.
just grabs him. It's like it's calling his name. Come and buy me, Asbel. So I have to try the shoe on. I know I don't need any more, but I just love this shoe. And I'm like, it looks similar to the one you just bought, but he has a million shoes. Not that many, but way more than me. You have to admit.
Probably, yeah. And I got rid of a bunch too. I think I got rid of like 75 shoes. Yeah, we give them away to people.
Family. I mean, we do. We don't just throw it away. It's being used.
It was too much, and it was a convicting piece that I still am on. I'm not like buying as much as I used to, but
being a shopaholic means something internal's going on.
Well, there's a lot of things. Whenever you're doing something, there's not really any teasing about it because it is true. Sometimes what's happening is if there's things that you need to address inside that maybe it's emotional, maybe it's spiritual, maybe there's something unhealthy going on, oftentimes we will look outside.
Yeah.
This is where addictions begin to happen, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, which is the common people when they think about addictions, but there's food, there's shopping. There are so many other things that are going on that if you pay attention to, you'll start to see the signs.
You're going to turn to something to use as a crutch to help you get through that season. And it starts from the drugs on down to what we call normal, but it's not healthy for you too. Nothing's healthy when you're just accumulating it. And here we are talking about decluttering. So
well, that's what we're talking about, but you got to first recognize, you can't declutter something if you haven't recognized that it's clutter, because sometimes people are living in cluttered environments and to them, it's a normal way of life.
Right.
So, I mean, hoarders, after a while, that's why they don't start inviting people over, but they don't understand, how do I get out of this? How do I get out? So you have to first recognize that there is clutter existing in my life. So how do you do that?
That's true.
Sometimes you can do it your way. So first of all, it's like, first, do I have the ability to face it that I have clutter? Most oftentimes, it's someone else bringing it to your attention that there is clutter in your life,
and that
whatever
it
is.
Message, something you see on a reel or a friend or something at work. It can be anything that brings that to your attention that, okay, I have a problem here. It's kind of like when the Hoarder show came out a long time ago, I would watch it. And after a while, I had to stop because it made me so sad, because we can laugh, and say, oh, they're a hoarder, but there's something much deeper going on that causes someone to want to just keep and hoard everything. And I remember a friend of ours adopted some boys, and they would hide food under their bed and all of these things, but they were dealing with trauma from their past. And so sometimes we think we can make light of it, but it's really serious for some people, how they're dealing with all these things that they've been accumulating from their past, from trauma, whatever it is.
Now, there's a difference between like clutter and just messiness. You know what I'm saying? So everybody has a degree of messiness. Way I defined messy is how I was raised. So my mom raised us a very specific way. It was different than how Stephanie was raised. And so that's why sometimes she's like, when you're here too long, it's time for you to go.
You can live in a museum. I mean, literally, he could have plastic on the couches and be...
No. She's doing a little too much.
But you are in the wrong city. Like when he's gone for like 2 days or more, I leave my juicer on the counter and my Vitamix on the counter, because I'm like, I'm gonna have to get down there again and pick it up again at 7 in the morning and do it all over again. So when he's gone, I do have a little bit more freedom. But when he's home, and I like our counter spaces clean too. I don't like a bunch of junk, but sometimes it's just easier for me. And
and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? But that's a different thing of just like what we would call, these are just your preferences. Yeah. It doesn't get me off. It doesn't strike an emotion, or I don't get upset when I see it. That's different. If it's upsetting you, if it's causing you an issue because of something else and it's triggering something inside of you, you probably need to look in the mirror to try to understand what that is. So there is a difference between being messy and being clutter. And oftentimes you'll have to get and start talking to someone. And so that's where counseling comes in. And that's where we strongly suggest counseling. There's often things that were happening in my life that I kind of just swept, or I didn't even realize or recognize it was happening.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't realize it. It's so
And then you
true.
get other voices that speak into your life. You know, Stephanie will speak and she'll say something, and I may not listen to her, but I'll listen to someone else, because oftentimes somebody that's close to us will say something.
The same exact thing, and they hear it from someone else, like, oh, this is powerful. And I'm like, honey, I have been telling you that for the last 6 months, but I guess it wasn't powerful enough for you.
I don't know it had anything to do, it's not powerful enough. It's just people are just really close, and sometimes you don't hear what is close to you. Yeah, because I've got many examples too that I could give where I've said some things and she's heard it from someone else. It's you're close.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to hear from an external source that tells you, and then it's like an aha moment that wakes up as you understand
One
it.
of those aha moments. I have another great quote by Lori Buchanan. Cleaning out clutter, be it physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, brings about ease and inspires a sense of peace, calm, and tranquility. And that is so true. So I created a list of tips. Let's see. First one, create a decluttering checklist.
A list. And she's the master of lists. She's the one that's taught
I
me.
did that for my mom and dad.
Oh.
They had their yellow pads and little notes.
She's the one that really taught me about a list. Now, I don't write my stuff out. Her and I will use our phones or some other electronic medium that will provide with the list.
Notes. We have a million.
She's the one that got me to writing, to blogging, things like that, because there is so much healing when you are writing and going through the process and letting. I had heard about it, I've read about it, and I just have never captured it. I went through numerous years of counseling before I even met Stephanie that talked about the necessity and importance of doing that, and never really got it until 2020.
And you don't have to give it out to the public. It can be for you. It's more for you, healing when you're writing to yourself like a little journal. So when you're doing the checklist, this is important to focus on one space at a time. Because you can become overwhelmed when you have 20 things. I know for me, I've had to learn this past year. If you have 20 things and you're like, oh, I'm never going to get to, okay, I'll start tomorrow. But if you condense that list, you'll get to it.
Now that's an area that I talk about it in phases. And so I do this in business, I do this in whatever, to me, it's a phased approach. If I just start small, eventually I will get it done. It may take me a little longer. There's some people that they can go all out and wipe it out in 6. That is not my personality. I want to do it in phases. I want to work it right. I want it to be done. I'm not going to spend 24 hours a day on one thing. I would rather do a little bit. Here's my end goal in mind, and do a little bit every single day. Whatever. Phasing it in. What I call phasing in.
That's good. And then another thing is figure out what matters to you. What's important? What do you need to get rid of? Identify what truly matters.
Well, and I think that's important to note there. I want to stop there, because what you identify as important to you may be different than what I do or what Stephanie does. And so that's why it's really key when you are looking at and saying, is there something that I need to declutter in my life, and we're talking more physically or mentally, spiritually. We're not really talking about like physical clutter within your home right now. We're being facetious and kind of talking through, because that's a good example to use. But is there something that's important to me that I know I have got to do? And if you can identify it, or you think everything is fine and I'm fine and everything's working out, I can promise you that if you open your ears and listen to those around you, they probably have identified some areas that you need to declutter. I don't care if you think that you have all the world's problem. You probably are the one that needs the decluttering. Anybody that thinks that they've arrived and I've got all the world's problems solved. And so to me, it's understanding what that is. We've learned the lesson. We know.
I used to think I've arrived back in the day. Not anymore, honey. Here I come. Reevaluate your commitments. It's easy to fall into the trap of wanting to do everything. Social events, volunteer work, extra projects, hobbies, even ministries, work projects. While they all sound great, it's crucial to ask yourself if they align with your goals and priorities. And I would say if they align with you, you need time for yourself too.
Learn the power of the no.
Yeah, learn.
We've been talking about that. Learn the power of the no. Yeah. Follow us on social media too, because we talk a lot about that. We both have been understanding and learning no is okay. No is a complete sentence. I never have to explain my no.
And being a people pleaser can create clutter in your life.
Well, people pleaser, if you're a people pleaser, it is a symptom of something internally. And if you go to counseling, they will talk you through that. They've talked about, both of us have been in that same position. We felt like we couldn't say no. We felt like if people didn't like us, we felt like we had to people please constantly. It's usually a symptom of something greater going on.
Well, and then you have people that try to guilt trip you to do their bidding.
Manipulation. Yeah. Narcissism.
We will bring that up. Because we're just going to learn about that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is, and we kind of already mentioned this, but start small, simplify your goals. If you have a long list, we already said this. We already went over this. But I do like this quote: a goal without a plan is just a wish. You know?
Goal without a plan, just a wish. You know what? The funny thing is that I blogged about this probably a week or so ago, talking about making sure what your purpose, know your purpose, but develop a plan to start to get there. And do it in phases, one piece at a time. We talked about that. But the thing is, oftentimes we never meet our goals and purposes because we haven't identified the one person that's keeping us from it. And it's usually us.
It's usually me,
there's usually something that is keeping me from fulfilling that purpose.
Very true. Okay, delete old and unused apps from your phone. Oh, I know I have a problem here. We're going to have to deal with this. I know you do too. We both do. We probably are paying for apps that we are not using, and we're wasting money. So we've already talked about this, you and I, but we haven't talked. Me, I do have a problem there because I think, oh, I'm going to start the trial, and then I forget about it. So then it goes into the subscription. So I don't, this is an issue.
We're going to move on from that one.
He's just not going to say anything because he knows. This is very typical. What I'm going to say here is, but cleaning your closet out. If sometimes, and this might sound funny, but I will sometimes go to TJ Maxx and get nice hangers that are matching. And I think sometimes that helps you want to get more organized when you have nice matching hangers. They're not that expensive. I think they're like $8.99 for like 24. To me, that's a good price. Maybe they're even cheaper. But I have cream ones and black ones, and I think it just helps. Right now, my closet does not look like I want it to look. Neither of our closets. But I think that helps our mind and helps us our whole life to get more organized when our closet, our physical closet, is organized.
Well, and sometimes too, when we're going through the organization, sometimes you just have too much too. And so we're looking at that and talking through that. And that's kind of a self-evaluation that I'm looking at is what is excess? And so excess is going to be defined by every single individual. There doesn't mean because you've got massive closets, because we've talked about that. You know what? We're gonna just put this house up for lease, and then we're gonna go buy another bigger house. We want bigger closets and walk-in closets. And I'm just having a conversation right now with God internally in my mind about the necessity of that. And so doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means
we do share. Our closet's very small. We share a closet, so it is small. We took my closet and put a bathtub in there, and because I love bathtubs. You know,
obviously they're not that small. And so that's what the point that I'm trying to make for both of us right now is what we define as small could be defined through someone else's eyes as large.
Yeah.
And so that to me is kind of the defining point first to understand why are we doing it. And it could be perfect reasons. There's no reason for unreason for. We both like to clothing and we like that kind of stuff. And so as long as it's not predicated on masking something else that could be going on, that is something that we're both doing a self-evaluation through that process as we work through it.
And not forgetting our humble beginnings and that little apartment we shared and that small little closet. I think that's always good to go back sometimes to look at where you come from and not be so forget. You know.
Yeah, sometimes you forget, you know what I'm saying? And that's what's really important. We're keeping it real here because we're going through, a lot of you are sitting here probably listening and thinking the same thing. And like, well, no, every single one of us go through it, but we have to be honest about it. We have to be real. we have to be real and understand it amongst ourselves and talk through it too, to make sure it's something that we're both doing in concert together.
Another thing, unfollow 5 social media accounts that don't uplift or inspire you. And they actually incite things in you. They discourage you. They're just not.
I don't have that problem. Delete. I removed 5 people today. I'm thinking they posted something just ridiculous and it incited something in me, and I said, boom, and hide. It's not worth it to me. It's not worth my peace. It's not worth. There's a lot of stress that you have in life. Social media should not be one of them.
Yeah.
And so if it's not uplifting, if it's not speaking life, there's 2 things that can happen. It can speak life or speak death. And the Bible talks about that. And I want to make sure that I consume through my eyes, through my ears, things that speak life.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't speak life, I'm turning it off.
Delete. Give yourself permission to let things go. That's the last.
Declutter.
I mean, there's a lot more we could talk about, but that's pretty much what I have.
Declutter.
Permission to let things go.
Declutter. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we said something today we were real. You heard our dogs barking.
Yes.
We keep that here because some of you like it, even though sometimes it does get annoying, but it's this is real.
But we have learned to tune them out if you haven't noticed.
This is real. This is what it's about, being real. Not everything's perfect. And so we've decided to stay on here. It is a cup of real. So you are getting a cup of everything real. So thank you for joining us, and welcome to 2024.
2024, here we come.
Declutter. Declutter. Bye.